Is this the most important Eagles offseason in decades, years, ever? I got some interesting thoughts and opinions on this, and I think it's an interesting question and way to lead off the show today, along with NFL divisional playoff predictions and a special guest joining us in about 45 minutes. We're live taking your thoughts and opinions on this and anything in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You know the drill. Hit those like, share, subscribe, retweet, follow buttons. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. As we get set to wrap up another fun-filled week, a week of this week on Trending in the AM has been a bit frustrating because of the Eagles' loss. But today we end the week of frustrations and we start the process of moving on, getting better, and rebuilding our Eagles organization. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, at Bearded Knowledge on all social media platforms, and I'd greatly appreciate a follow if you can. We got a fun-filled show. We are going to ask the question today: is this the most important Eagles offseason in decades? I can't remember an offseason with this much on the line. So we're going to talk about that. We'll get into this conversation of Duck's pre-show comment about who the DC and OC that Lurie would accept, during their meeting today. We'll get into this as well. Adam, good morning. Yeah, it's snowy out there. If you're out and about today, make sure you're careful. I know in southern Chester County, it's snowing. They're calling in this area for a good solid 4 to 6 inches of snow. Started last night. It's going to go all day today. I guarantee I will not be open for a full 12 hours today, which sucks because it's a Friday. But after the show, I will go in and try to do a few hours of work today. Try to deliver some pizzas around Kennett Square. We'll see if you do order for delivery anywhere. If you do order out anywhere, make sure you tip and take care of the people that are out there on the roads. I'd greatly appreciate it if you're in the Kennett area. Drive on over to Fox's Pizza today. Maybe we'll be there. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Flyers keep winning. That is right. I did watch the first 2 periods. Owen Tippett, Adam. Oh, reverse behind the back goal. Who is this Owen Tippett guy that I got to learn? Just confirmed for next week, Wednesday. Bill Matz, PHLY, Flyers reporter, will be joining us to talk Flyers. I got guests lining up for this show now for this offseason. Tuesday, Scotty. Wednesday, Bill Matz. The following week, the 30th, we got Renee Washington. I am lining them up and knocking them down with the guests here in the coming weeks here. So make sure you stay tuned. We're not just going to cover Eagles all offseason. We are going to talk Sixers. We are going to talk Flyers, Phillies. We're going to talk them, of course. Lots happening. But this is almost the end of Eagles football talk every single day in a week. We are going to get to the playoff predictions later in the show. I got a special guest joining me at 8:45 approximately. Lions fan, one of my partners on my other podcast. We are going to talk every game, make previews and predictions. I know. Mitchie Poo can't wait till he gets the request. I save the guaranteed yeses in my back pocket. The people I know, like Mitchie and the Gobbler, I know they'll come on anytime. I know Shane F will come on anytime. I know Deebs will when school's out. I keep you guys in my back pocket, for when somebody, bails on me or I don't get any answers. But the off season is the guest time, so there'll be plenty of guests on this show all off season for the Eagles. But this is the end of the everyday Eagles talk. Every day, all show long. And I'm ending it with this conversation today, because Jeffrey Lurie and Nick Sirianni are supposed to finally meet for Nick Sirianni's quote-unquote exit interview end of season interview, and this is his moment, quote unquote, to save his job, supposedly, or to sell Jeffrey Lurie on what he is going to do to make changes in the next season. What his plan is at offense and in defensive coordinator. What his plan is to right the locker room. That is what the media is saying. Now with the snow, I don't know. Maybe they meet. Maybe they meet virtually. Maybe they postpone it to tomorrow. I don't know. We'll get into that when we get into that. But it's an important day if Jeffrey Lurie decides to keep Nick Sirianni or not. It's an important day whether they're firing their coordinators or not. Technically, Brian Johnson and Matt Patricia and Sean Desai are all still employed with the Eagles. Is this the most important offseason? We talked about it before the season and early in the season that this season started, well, last season started and opened, and this season was continuing a huge Super Bowl window, so we thought. Over the next 5-6 years, I said before the year started, we better be playing in 3 Super Bowls. We better win at least one. We saw that come, almost slamming shut that window this year. This team, as it felt this last 7 weeks, doesn't feel like there's a Super Bowl window anywhere. But there is still a window. And this offseason is critical in determining whether this Super Bowl window will stay open or, God forbid, we've got to tear it down and start over again. Now, we have faith in Howie that the tear down and start over and a rebuild really is just a retool and he could fix things pretty quickly. But this offseason determines the next 5 years for this Eagles team. Is Nick Sirianni going to stay or go? Is Nick Sirianni going to fix the problems or not? Is Jalen Hurts going to return to some form of an MVP form? All questions that need answer. And Howie Roseman fix the holes personnel-wise on this team. We go 2 years in a row of disappointments, then guarantee we're going to be starting with a new coach and stuff. This season, there's a lot on the line. And Green Bay, mid or not, would you rather be in Green Bay's situation right now than Philly's situation? You have a creative young head coach, no questions being asked. They're patient. They developed the quarterback. They're not as talented on paper as the Eagles are. But would you rather Green Bay's situation than Eagles? That's kind of the thing. Like when you look at the games this weekend, and we're going to preview them later on the show, would you rather be in any of the other team situations? And obviously the Chiefs and the Bills, that's a different situation. Baltimore. Would you rather be the Texans, the Lions, the Packers? Would you rather be in their situations than what the Eagles are? The decisions that are made over the next, not just on draft day and in free agency, but the decisions made in the coaching rooms over the next 3 to 5 days are going to tell you. Well, they're not. We're not going to learn anything immediately, but the answers and the decisions made there are going to either correct the course of this franchise or tear it down. And we won't know till the next season ends. But this moment right now, you're on the bridge. Are you going to fall off the bridge? Or are you going to keep climbing up? I don't know, but it is very important. I can't think of the last time an off season had this much on the line. If you could tell Jalen Hurts anything about this season, what would you tell him? That's an interesting question, Mitch. Very interesting question. I would tell him to, come up with some kind of a check down system. Even if it's not designed in the play. You and A.J. Brown, you're on the same page. You got to have a wink with him. Yo, I see something that we need a quick change. Wink, wink. He's the quick out, hot route, whatever. I would tell him that. I would tell him, show some emotion. The stoic mannerisms of him, it works. But sometimes you need something else. You need a little extra. For every elite person in sports, Michael Jordan, I was thinking of somebody else. Who else was I thinking of? Um, for every calm demeanor person that's leading, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, leading by example on the floor. There's also the guy behind him, Shaquille O'Neal, that'll get in your face and rip you up. You need both types of leadership on a team. The Eagles need Jalen Hurts to be two types of leaders, not one. Hurtsy Poo learned to read defenses better. You slid a little bit. He needs to learn how to slide safer too. Hurts can read defense last year. Um, Quit blaming. Look, I know there's a lot of people that don't want to hear the Jalen Hurts criticism, and that's fine. EC1, I get it. I'm not ready. We had a whole entire Jalen Hurts conversation yesterday, but to deflect all the blame off of him, he read it pretty good. He put 4,000 yards. Stop. I mean, we could be fair about this conversation. We can be fair about it. There is nobody, as we've had the last 2 or 3 days, EC, nobody clear of blame for the last 7 weeks of football down in South Philly. You can't take the blame off of Jalen Hurts, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson, the 53rd man on the roster, the water boy, the equipment manager. Everybody is to blame for this collapse. And saying that, it's all on one person, I think is a short-sighted opinion. Rather be the Eagles and Packers. Okay. All right. I see. Check down to who? Well, that's why I'm saying they gotta learn. They gotta adjust. They gotta figure it out. What's up, Judd? How you doing this morning? I think it's time to change that Blankenship name. With the fans are who we the fans are to blame too. Yes, yes, Duck, the fans are to blame too. Yes. Everybody's to blame. Anybody that gets paid by the Eagles, anybody that gets paid by Jeffrey Lurie is to blame. And the interns that don't get paid. But look, the Eagles got us arguing amongst ourselves. Who's to blame? I say this person, you say that person, you say that person, you say that person. Everybody's pointing fingers at everybody. And we're arguing amongst ourselves. No, we're just 1 year removed from making a Super Bowl appearance and being this close to winning that game, winning our second Super Bowl. So the window's there. And that's why I'm asking the question, is this the most important offseason in ages? Damn straight, Adam. They could have let you in for free and didn't have to pay. Those parking lot attendants collecting your money. That's important. They failed us too. They couldn't get us out of the parking lot quick enough, so we got more pissed off at the end of a loss. And look, Nick's offense is not good. That's why he's got a very important meeting with with Jeffrey Lurie today. Maybe today. Maybe it gets canceled today because of the blizzard of 96 rolling in here today. It's important that he can sell himself. And this is why I do go towards the Nick might need to get fired. If you're after your third year and you've already got a Super Bowl appearance and 3 straight playoff appearances, et cetera, all the stats that we know about Nick Sirianni, if you still at this point got to sell yourself to the owner of the team after this season, probably means he's got to go. But what Jeffrey Lurie does today and what Nick Sirianni follows up and does over the next week or so is going to have ripple effects for the next how many years with this organization. Yeah, how he drafts is important. Yeah, who does this and that. Yeah, I get all that. Who signs, who goes, who whatever. But this couple days here, not just this offseason, the next couple days are some of the most important days of the coming years. I can't think of any time in the Andy Reid era that was this important. Maybe after 04, sent ripple effects to down, but that was more the T.O. Donovan saga, and that was just 2 people. Maybe is up there. None of the other coaching changes. The Doug Peterson era, I don't remember the Doug Peterson era having this much on the line. I guess after the 2020 season, but we thought we were rebuilding, not just flipping the switch like that. Don't get it twisted. The Cowboys being terrible does not make Packers good. Gotcha. Get real offensive coordinator, real coach. Watch Hurts do fine. Hiring guys like Alex as quarterback coach. Look, I get it. You're blaming the coach and not the quarterback. I get it. And I'm a huge Jalen guy, you see. And all day yesterday, I had to be the only one supporting Jalen Hurts. When we had a Jalen Hurts conversation, is he a problem? I was the only one in the comments backing my man Jalen. But to say it's all Nick and no Jalen Hurts' fault, Jalen Hurts did have like 87 turnovers this year. So, yeah, long time since just hit that like button, everybody, please. That would be greatly appreciated. You fire a Super Bowl coach, you're a clown show. No coach will come. And I don't know. I see everybody keeps saying this. No coaches want to come here. If you fire Nick Sirianni, no offensive coordinator is going to want to come here and work under Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman, et cetera, et cetera. This morning, I kind of started convincing myself that that's a bogus opinion. Even though I even have that opinion, it's a bogus opinion. And let me ask that. Look, who wouldn't want to come to Philly? The coach. Yeah, you got to work under Howie's thumb. Yeah, there's a quick trigger finger from ownership sometimes. But also, this team is always in contention. Howie Roseman always makes the necessary adjustments to the roster. Howie never has a problem finding more money. Howie never has a problem cutting ties to find money for another player. This team always puts out a good product. I mean, we've missed the playoffs only a handful of times over the last 20 years. So maybe, and you've already got a franchise quarterback in the building in Jalen Hurts. Is it out of the realm of possibility to those of us that have said in the last couple of weeks that no one would want to come here because of Lurie, because of Howie? Is that an overreaction? And I think it might be. You're given the tools to succeed here. Yeah, you're given a quick trigger, but you are given the tools to succeed here in Philly. So maybe this is not that scary of a place to coach, head coach, coordinator, anything. You just got to succeed. You might have a quick trigger on firing you, but you're going to be given. You just can't come here if you're not confident that you can succeed. I'm curious on that. If he struggles again with different OC and head coach, offense is clicking, Hurts struggles, still fine. I could blame him, but what quarterback succeeding? Look, we're not. I would be utterly shocked if Nick Sirianni got fired today. Utterly shocked. Not saying I think he should be fired. I'm not saying I don't think he should be fired. I'm saying I don't think he will be fired. I think he is going to be given the opportunity to find the coordinators to make adjustments. He's going to say, I'll take a back seat. We'll bring somebody in here. They'll do this. I wouldn't be shocked if Brian Johnson is back next year. Just going to say. The fact that he hasn't been fired yet tells me that there's a chance Brian Johnson is still the offense coordinator. He's got 3 or 4 head coaching interviews already. People are looking at him, and they're not all just because of the Rooney Rule. So let me just get that out of some of these places have already fulfilled their Rooney Rule requirements and are still bringing in Brian Johnson. Let me also say, Brian Johnson is not going to take a demotion to quarterback coach. No coach is going to take that kind of a demotion. So he's either going to be the offensive coordinator here or the head coach somewhere else. And if he doesn't get a head coaching job, do not be shocked if Brian Johnson's back. Now, they might bring in a new quarterback coach. They might bring in an offensive quality control person with huge play calling experience to help along this offense. But there's a strong chance that both Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson are going to be here. And when I say this is the most important offseason, if that's the case, and there is a chance that happens, if that's the case, this most important offseason is going to start a downward trend possibly for this organization. Because you're going to get a lot of the same. Bringing in Frank Reich as a consultant isn't going to change enough. You got to fire Brian Johnson and bring in Frank Reich or whoever. This is important. What happens today and happens over the next couple of days. Very, very, very important. Under that garbage system, yeah, I get it. A.J. Brown is good. He's better than good. A.J. not getting traded. No, I don't know who's talking about A.J. getting traded. I don't get that. Nobody's talking about that. We got the get back to more pads and speed practices. We don't seem to be as tough as we have been in the last few seasons. There is an edge missing on defense, and we better hire the absolute best possible defensive coordinator for this team. For as unshocked as I would be if Sirianni and Brian Johnson are still here, I would be utterly shocked if Patricia and Desai, one or the other or both, are here next year. They're as good as gone. So the hiring of the next defensive coordinator is going to be a massively important job in this upcoming offseason. That what idiot reported Texans have 500-yard land, AJ, or we play Matt. I get you got frustration in your messages. I get it. It's okay. I think Jalen had a good season. He had good numbers, and with new coordinators, he will still be a top 5 QB. Behind. Yeah, I don't think many people are not behind Jalen. I mean, they better be. He ain't going anywhere, at least for another year or two. So let's just relax on that. Sportsbooks are taking bets on his next team. Weird, but probably just making people's money. On who? AJ? Hurts? The coaches? People are taking bets on all those and where they go. And who you can place a bet on who the next Eagles coach is going to be. And they still have a head coach. So, yeah, sportsbooks are just always fishing for people's money in those kind of situations, Brett. And I get it. They're sportsbooks. They got to pry on us degenerates that will bet on literally anything at any moment's notice. And that's what we are. We're degenerates. Can't help it. The quarterback money and salary cap. What about the quarterback money and salary cap? Sometimes you guys just put random half questions, half statements in the comments. I don't even know what you're talking about half the time. But what does Nick Sirianni even have to say today to reassure Jeffrey Lurie that his commitment to Nick Sirianni is important, it is good? He's going into year 4 of a 5-year contract. Jeffrey Lurie is going to say, flat out, this is it. You got one chance to right this ship. What are you going to do? And if Nick Sirianni comes in and says, well, we're planting the roots. We planted some really solid roots. The roots are still there. We just got to water them properly. We got to mulch properly. If Nick Sirianni goes into this meeting with a bunch of mumbo-jumbo generalized statements, is Jeffrey Lurie going to look at Nick and be like, yeah, that's not good enough for me? Or is he going to fall victim to the Nick Sirianni speaking ways and be like, got it, you're good. Whatever you want, coach, you're playing. Yeah, degenerates, dude, he plays. Can't always win on golf pick stuff. I got to lose my money that I win on golf elsewhere. Happens to me every year. I always say I'm stopping betting everything but golf. Because all golf season long, I raise my bankroll, and then the first week of football comes crashing down. They have reports AJ Houston and Colts, so plus 500, plus 200. He's not going anywhere. AJ Brown ain't going anywhere. Not this year. It's just not happening, guys. I'd be shocked. I'm very mad I didn't bet on the Eagles' loss. Would have been the easiest money ever. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even bet on the Eagles game win or lose. I bet some stats and obviously like some same game parlay yardage things, but none of it worked because the Eagles played like crap. You can't afford your stars. I'm not worried about it. Even K1 knows. K1's not here to defend himself. I'm very mad I didn't bet the Bucks on Monday night. Easiest money ever made. You can stress patience when you're doing a rebuild, not in a Super Bowl win. And that's why, Brett, this is exactly accurate. You can stress patience when you're rebuilding. You can. But we're not rebuilding. We are in a supposed Super Bowl window right now. And that Super Bowl window can shut like that. Real fast. And the decisions made, not just this entire offseason, not just who gets drafted where by Howie Roseman, defensive tackle, first round, calling it now. Not just what happens in free agency, but what Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni, and Howie Roseman decide today and tomorrow about Jeffrey Lurie, about Nick Sirianni's future and about what they're going to do at the coordinator position. You got Jeffrey or Howie and Nick out there calling coordinators, gauging interest. You haven't officially fired any of your coordinators, but you're out there gauging interest from other people so that you can present a plan to Jeffrey Lurie. Jeffrey Lurie is so unsure of himself. The season ends, and instead of flying back to Philly to be involved in the player exit interviews, he had to fly to St. Martin. He had to clear his head. That's how unsure Jeffrey Lurie is at this moment. So Nick Sirianni does have to do something to sell himself. And to me, if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, and this is not saying I would fire Nick Sirianni, but if I was the owner of a team, I'm the owner of a business. If I'm thinking about firing you, then I'm just going to fire you. There's no point in dragging it out. If I don't have 100% confidence in you, then you got to go. Be very interesting. But whatever decisions are made today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, next week, with this coaching staff will have ripple effects that will last for months, years on end. And that's why it's the most important offseason in ages. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports the Titans are interviewing. Yeah, he's been interviewed by a lot of teams. A lot of teams. That's why the 76ers can't wait either with how Joel and his team are playing. And I'm not for with the Sixers trading too much right now because I'm not a Daryl Morey fan. But I get this. That window, he's playing an elite level. You go out and make a few moves if you got to. Eastern Conference is winnable. I was watching a few minutes of that Bucks game the other night. I don't know how the game ended, but they were getting smoked in the first half by the Cavs because Giannis wasn't playing. Just like with no Joel. Doesn't matter who your second star is. If you're missing Giannis or Joel, you're struggling. The Eastern Conference is winnable. We just proved again. We beat the Denver Nuggets the other night. Go all in. Get another person. Pair them up with. Why not? What's up, Brian? How you doing today? If Nick was worth an ounce, he would have shoved it when it mattered most, when the team needed it this season. Guys, worthless. Real coaches get the most out of the players when it matters. Time for a change. Hey, and that's about we've been talking like this all week long, Brian. You know, bringing up who's to blame, and everybody is to blame. And you're valid in feeling this way about Nick Sirianni. And that's why what Nick Sirianni says to Jeffrey Lurie today or tomorrow, depending on the snow, what he says today and what Jeffrey Lurie feels about what he says today is going to have ripple effects that affect this franchise for a long time. Mistakes this offseason, if they do the wrong thing at coach and coordinator this offseason, next offseason, we might be talking about a strip down and tear down job. You might be. You never know. Going to St. Martin is greater than dealing with the media fallout of class. Yeah, basically he's tucked his tail. Has he tucked his tail to run and hide? Or is he gone because he needed some fresh Caribbean salt air to clear his mind so he can make a clear decision? You know, if he would have came back and done all this on Monday or Tuesday, would he have made a rash decision? Maybe. Remember the Frank Reich coaching tree before he became a Nick Sirianni assistant. Brady was part of erratic Colts owner Jim Irsay's mid-22 coaching purge. Brady has only been Brady who? Are you talking about Joe Brady? I don't even know who you're talking about there. According to reports, Nick trying to hire Mike Groh, Pat Shurmur. I don't know if that's true or not. Mike Groh, no thank you. Pat Shurmur, definitely no thank you. Might as well bring in Marty Morningwig while we're at it if we're going that route. And Press Taylor, too. I'm flummoxed why Johnson is getting head coaching interviews. Sadly, might be no. See, everybody keeps bringing up the Rooney Rule. Remember, Brian Johnson has had success before the Eagles. He was successful in college. Kyle Trask would not be an NFL quarterback, albeit a backup one, without Brian Johnson. Jalen Hurts went from a nobody to a pretty elite quarterback under Brian Johnson's tenure. Teams with young quarterbacks or uncertain quarterback situations see that, Brett, and want to push for Brian Johnson. Because some of these teams that have interviewed him have already fulfilled their Rooney rule, just so you know. Brian Johnson might be one of those guys that's a better head coach than offensive coordinator, as long as he can defer play calling ability. And look, we hated Nick Jonathan Gannon's system last year. He's running a completely different system in Arizona. Maybe he was running the system he was told to here. Maybe Brian Johnson is just running what he's told to be run. The guy, like, I would not be shocked, Brett, if he is still the offensive coordinator. He shouldn't be the offensive coordinator next year, but it wouldn't shock me. But that's why this is such an important offseason. Brian's a good guy. He's a good guy. Yep, can't avoid moves at trade deadline to save all of your cap space. Hopefully, rumors of Bridges being available is true. We'll see. We're gonna get. I got my man Scotty from DSM. He'll joining me Tuesday next week. We're gonna talk for 30 minutes nonstop Sixers Tuesday at 8:15 to 8:45 next week. We're gonna talk about all the options to improve to go all in on the Sixers team. Bridges, Levine, smaller names out there. I know he likes him some Tyrese Jones, so we'll get into him too. Lurie needed the salt from many margaritas. Yeah, he needed a few. Is Jeffrey Lurie a margarita drinker? Interesting. I wonder what Jeffrey Lurie's go-to drink is in the Caribbean. Me, it depends on the mood I'm in that day. Howie Roseman didn't offer TJ Edwards a contract even though he wanted to stay in Philly. I saw that report yesterday. I did. And there was reports that came out yesterday, a couple days ago, that Denard Wilson wanted to stay in Philly as a defensive coach, even if he had to stay as defensive backs coach, even if they didn't want to promote him. That's why he went to Baltimore, even though it was a parallel job. I mean, last offseason, there were a lot of mistakes from Howie Roseman, from Nick Sirianni, from everybody. They didn't replace the starters they lost well enough. You lose TJ Edwards, but you replaced them with Nicholas Morrow. So they all have to have a better offseason. But that's why this offseason is so important. Because if you botch this offseason, I'm telling you, I'm not going to go as far as saying a complete rebuild's going to have to happen. But next offseason, if this offseason fails and next year is another disappointing season, next offseason, Nick's gone. Everybody's gone. There'll be questions about Jalen. You'll be trading some of your star players for draft picks. You're going to start a semi-rebuild type attitude next offseason. Retool, because Howie never rebuilds, he just retools. You're going to start all over again. This window that was supposedly open for 6 years now, or is going to be open for like 6 more years, like that, looks like it's barely open right now. Johnson, like Nick, won't call plays. We definitely need somebody in here. I don't even know if we need a better play caller. Brian Johnson might be a good play caller. Nick Sirianni might be a good play caller. But the designing of the plays in the playbook that you're calling from, that's the problem. The system is the problem, not necessarily the plays that are being called from the system. Yeah, the plays aren't working, but not having plays designed in your book with motion, not having plays, not having backup plans designed in plays for hot routes or quick hitters when the blitz is coming. That's the problem. It's not just the play calling, it's the whole design of the offensive system. That's the problem. So you don't necessarily need a better offensive coordinator in here. You need someone in here that's going to sit down with Howie, Brian, or whoever is here and design a system with them or for them that is going to benefit Jalen Hurts' skill set, but also that's going to benefit this team as a whole and where the NFL is as a whole right now. You can't get away without pre-snap motion. We see that the Eagles can't. Every team in the playoffs right now have teams that have motion built into them that are willing to run the ball, to set up the pass. Every team that won last week won because they ran the ball more than passing. The scheme is the failure, not necessarily each individual play call. If Brian Johnson gets a coaching job, he probably will do better because he can run his own style. And that's what I'm saying. He's not going to be held back, Adam, by Nick Sirianni's system design. The scheme only has one major problem. It's that there are not multiple wrinkles out of formation. And that's the thing. And the Sirianni comments from September really ring true with this comment. Like Nick Sirianni said, he didn't have to make any changes. He just wanted to keep doing what he was doing and just get even better at doing it. Well, they had a playbook on what you were doing. They knew how to stop it. And Howie Roseman wasn't able to adjust it. Howie Roseman wasn't able to put new wrinkles into it. That's the problem. The fact that Howie wasn't able to adjust. That Howie flat out came out before the season started or early in the season and said, I'm not trying to do something new. I'm not trying to change anything or add anything. I'm just trying to get better at what we already do. And that's a bad way to be as a leader of a sports team. Who's spreading fake rumors? I'm not spreading fake rumors. I don't spread rumors at all. So a guy to design a system who won't be off its career, get most of the credit, seems like it would be a real pot. I know the way I laid it out, Brett. I know it doesn't make any sense. I know that. I know that, without a doubt. But what I'm saying is, if you could find somebody that can help, that Nick and Brian would listen to, then you might be able to get something out of it. It really is like Madden because most players don't use motion in that game because it's clunky. Well, I think it's more like Super Tecmo Bowl, 2 pass play options, 2 run play options, and that's it. That's what I feel like. He's literally got this huge card with plays, and he just calls from a little section of it. Same predictable play over and over again. Nick can't call plays. Shane was the brains. Shane did a good job, obviously. We're missing him, obviously. But if you look at what the Colts did this year, they ran a completely different offense than he ran here in Philly last year. Now, Shane Steichen was able to get a lot out of Gardner Minshew once Anthony Richardson went down. And he was dealing with a young guy in Anthony Richardson. And he got a lot out of them. But he was still running Nick's system last year. So that kind of counters what I said, that the system. But what it goes back to is the fact that he didn't make any adjustments to it after losing Shane. Still a problem there. No read comment above it. AJ trade odds. Oh, the trade. Yeah, he's not getting traded. Tecmo Bowl was awesome back in the day. It was Super Tecmo Bowl, the second version of it, the greatest sports video game ever made. Except for that one little glitch that I found, and I can't tell you because whenever I play you in a game heads up, which probably will never happen, but just in case, I'm saving that one glitch so I can win. Not giving you crap, just how the Eagles are. No, I know you're not giving me crap. I just know, and you call it, like, as I said it the first time, I knew it sounded ridiculous. But, you saying it, how ridiculous it sounded, is a problem. And again, all these problems, look, I'm fine if they keep Nick Sirianni. I think they're going to keep Nick Sirianni. But I'm not sure keeping Nick Sirianni is the right answer. It's weird how to say it that way. I get it that they probably will. I'll be fine with it as long as he has a good plan, but I'm not sure it's the right decision. It's not Super Tecmo Bowl. People often call it Super Tecmo Bowl. It's not. It's Tecmo Super Bowl. Exactly. Nick would refuse to run with Bo Jackson. Yeah, exactly. Brian will be awesome as a head coach when he runs his system. Yeah. And if Brian Johnson gets one of these jobs that he's interviewed for, and he's interviewed for 3 or 4 of them, which we're going to get into this, and it's something else that's irking me right now. And we'll get into it even more when my guest joins me in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But if Brian Johnson gets a job and goes elsewhere and is successful, is that going to be another check mark against Nick Sirianni? Gannon, he didn't have a successful win-loss record, but he beat us and he beat the Cowboys this year down there in Arizona. And maybe they're in a rebuild process. So the talent's not there on that team. Shane Steichen's done well out of his shadow. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Whoever was in charge of offensive play calling needs to be fired. But see, is it the play calling or is it the play and system designing? Brian Johnson was calling the plays, but Sirianni was designing the playbook. So there's who's in charge of what is the question. Keeping Nick is like keeping Doc last year. I've seen this all before. And I saw somebody else, maybe you, I don't know who you are on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, Brett, but somebody brought this up on Twitter and I saw it. And it got me thinking. It's like keeping Doc 1 year too long. And I get it. We wasted a whole year with an extra year of Doc here. We knew exactly what was going to happen, and it happened. Does something similar happen? And if you think something similar has happened, then you should probably move on. Maybe he should call up Daryl Morey and Josh Allen and be like, "Did you guys make a mistake by keeping him 1 2 year or 1 year too long?" And go from there. What should scare everyone is that these corrections on the offense could easily be made during the season and weren't. I think it's a fantastic point, though. And the fact that Nick Sirianni is so stubborn in his philosophies that he didn't make any of these changes is a check mark to say that to not keep Nick Sirianni. Without a doubt. They they think once out of Philly, AJ trade odds over him not playing a playoff game. Look, he was hurt, whatever. I'm moving on from the AJ conversation right now because I don't think it's a valid thing that's going to. It could happen, but I doubt it does. I hope Brian comes to play in Philly and runs it up Jameis Winston style. You know, that'd be heartbreaking. Hire whoever doesn't want to run screens on 3rd and long. Well, if you're going to run a screen, can we just get somebody that wants to run a running back screen? We harken back to the Brian Westbrook days instead of these bubble wide receiver screens where everyone's running into each other and Jalen almost throws a pick on every one of them. What happened? You had DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell. Boston's got guys that look like they're shifty enough that they could run a running back screen. But did they even call one traditional running back screen this year? Or your lineman pull? Well, if you have your lineman pull, they'll probably be an eligible man downfield because for some reason it's called 75 times a day against us. Brian will have those screens clicking when he has players who are interested in making blocks and actually play for each other. Interesting. Interesting. You're saying AJ Brown, Devontae Smith don't want to block, don't want to play. Interesting. Interesting. I can see Nick clapping his hands and saying, "Come on, guys," as motivational like Doc did. Yeah, let's go, guys. Come on. You got this. Rah, rah. I'm a cheerleader here. But again, we're spending a lot of time talking about Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson specifically. When I came up with this question, is this the most important offseason for the Eagles in decades? I was thinking more along the lines of Jeffrey Lurie because it's on Jeffrey Lurie to make this decision. If he wants to move on from Nick Sirianni, it's on him. It's not even Howie Roseman's decision to make, realistically at this point. Howie would hire the next head coach, sure. But Jeffrey Lurie does not handle disappointment and especially embarrassment well. All you could do is come in here with this cheerleader attitude to the meeting today. There's a chance that Nick Sirianni doesn't have a job by the end of the weekend. And if you're going to do it, and I said this before, and I'll say it again, this offseason is ripe with a lot of great head coaching candidates. A lot of them. There's a lot of people. Next offseason, there'll be a lot less opportunities to hire someone better. So if you think there's a doubt, you make that move now. All right, so we got special guests here. What do we got here? Final two comments. Can we get an offensive coordinator that runs anything intermediate? Yeah, that'd be nice. Have to hire and build around Hurts and his limitations. Absolutely. So join us right now on the I Have No Sponsor hotline. My good friend, my Fairway to Heaven co-host, the great, up in Detroit, Jason Sullivan. Good morning, Jason. Are you awake this morning?
Dude, I had to set my alarm. I took a day off today because I was up late with my little boy last night, and I'm here.
Yeah, I love it. Out late last night, Michigan State beats the Minnesota. Is it Golden Gophers still?
Yep.
76-66. At least you took your kid to
Wow.
one.
I know. It took my little boy to his first game last night. He loved it, so it was worth it. It was awesome.
All right, so we got Jason on here for a couple reasons. One, he's going to help me break down all the divisional round games. Two, he's going to talk about Detroit a little bit because there's a coaching topic I want to bring up. But also, he's a football fan. And this is the first time that Detroit has won a playoff game in ages. And we're sitting here as Eagles fans, and that wasn't a dig at Detroit, Jason. This is more of a setup to the thing here. You know, Jason is an outsider looking in, and he hears me and sees me talking Eagles all the time. You know, we're sitting here as Eagles fans talking about, should we fire our coach 1 year after a Super Bowl appearance? Yesterday, is Jalen Hurts the right guy or not to be the quarterback of this franchise? Yet, from an outsider's perspective, aren't some cities and organizations kind of jealous and like wondering, why are we so ready to make such drastic changes to what is a pretty well-run organization? Do you get what I'm getting at with that question?
100%. 100%. Obviously, like my connection to you, I have a lot of friends from Philadelphia now, and I feel like sometimes I just want to say to them, like, you do realize that you won a Super Bowl 7 years ago.
Yep.
You went to the Super Bowl last year. You started off 10-1. Yeah, it was a collapse this year. It was bad for sure, But I mean, I think 99% of the teams in the NFL would kill to have your situation.
Yep.
And I feel
so,
like,
I mean, you guys went through how many head coaches before you settled on
right.
Dan Campbell up there? You're not going to, if you guys get embarrassed this weekend, is Detroit fan base going to be calling for Dan Campbell's head?
No, but I feel like we're in a different situation than you guys are. Like, you guys are used to success. We haven't had any success in 30 years. So we love him, obviously, but he's not. I think people have accepted that he's not a mastermind coach, but he's a very, very, very legit motivator. So that's what we have right now.
And that's something with Nick Sirianni. Like, Nick Sirianni is too physically involved with the play calling and the play designs. Dan Campbell is just the motivator and the leader. He delegates correctly. So you can have a successful team with a head coach that just delegates to strong coordinators accurately, correct?
Agreed, 100%. That's what makes me a little bit worried, though. 99 is a strong number. It's true. 94.
Okay, 94, yeah.
It does worry me, that, to your point, that worries me about the Lions next year. Ben Johnson's probably going to go somewhere as a head coach. I think we all agree on that. He's probably the hottest young coach name right now in the NFL. I get worried if he's not. I just get worried if, like, what if he doesn't find a mastermind like Ben Johnson for an offensive coordinator? How does that look? Because Dan Campbell's not an X's and O's guy.
Okay.
He's a motivator. That's it. So he's got a great coordinator right now. What happens when he doesn't have a great coordinator?
Well, you'd hope you'd have a situation like in Pittsburgh where Mike Tomlin is he doesn't call the X's and O's on offense or defense. And he's had some great offensive coordinators. He's had some bad ones. What was the guy's name they fired this year? Canada something.
Yeah.
Matt Canada. You know what I mean? So, but he still was a motivator, was still able to find a way to get a poorly talented Pittsburgh team to the playoffs again. Let's be honest, Pittsburgh's a good team, but they're not loaded. They have Mason Rudolph in a playoff game start.
Right.
Wasn't even in the NFL. So sometimes your coach stepping back and just leading and delegating might be the right way to go about it.
100%. I completely agree with that. There's coaches that are super involved. Obviously, we've seen them, Sean Payton's of the world and everything that call all the plays. Sean McVay is another one. But yeah, I agree. Sometimes you don't have to do everything.
Right. You brought up Ben Johnson as probably going to be a head coach somewhere, and he is one of the biggest names out there right now. Something I put out on Twitter yesterday, and I know you agreed with me on it. We went through this last year with Jonathan Gannon being distracted in the Super Bowl. And now you got Ben Johnson. I think I'm being a little sarcastic with the 700, but he's had like 6 or 7 interviews this week alone, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there time for the NFL to maybe put a little freeze on the coach? Like, you can't hire free agents till the season ends. Why are all these coaches interviewing in the middle of the playoffs? And it kind of causes the distraction. If they go out this week and lose, and they could lose. I mean, I think they'll win this week, but they could lose the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be people that are blaming the fact that Ben Johnson was distracted this week. Should the NFL put a freeze on this?
I think they should. I actually thought about it last year for the first time when you guys were going through it. Like my team wasn't even in the playoffs, but your team was, and I just kept thinking like that sucks that obviously you're not missing meetings, you're not missing practice or whatever, but like yeah, your mind's not on your opponent when you have a 4-hour interview for the head coaching job. So I hate it. I wish that it would be like, okay, so the Super Bowl is what, the second week of February?
Yeah,
Why not do a freeze
it's the
until then?
11th this year.
The Monday after you can start hiring people.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't, and I know everybody kept telling me, well, they would do it behind people's backs anyway. Just like free agency starts, and within 30 seconds, people are
right.
signing contracts,
Yeah.
whatever. I get it, but someone like last year it happened with us, Jonathan Gannon, and yeah, he was distracted, but in his mind, it wasn't announced that he was the head coach right away,
Right.
but he already knew he was the head coach. Ben
Right.
Johnson might already know he's got a head coaching job.
Sure. Yeah.
So instead of even when he's done the interview, he's sitting there working on who's going to be my offensive coordinator, who's going to be my defensive
Right.
coordinator.
Right.
Let me call this guy and that guy.
Yeah.
The constant distraction is there. And I think the fact that this goes on like this, now it became amplified for us as Eagles fans last year with Gannon, obviously. But, I think it's a problem. And I think the NFL needs to eventually address this because we don't need this to continually happen, the distractions constantly. And it also puts teams in an unfair playing field. Like, you know, if the Lions get to the championship game but are losing Ben Johnson, or say the Lions get to the Super Bowl and are losing Ben Johnson, the Eagles last year, we were so far behind the 8 ball on hiring a new coordinator last offseason because we lost ours. All the good ones were already taken.
Right.
So,
That's the crappy part right there is that you can lose coordinators, you can lose staff members, but you can't hire anybody.
yeah,
So that's the crappy part. Like you can't tell me that, okay, so we know we're going to lose Ben Johnson more than likely. Dan Campbell's not out interviewing offensive coordinators right now. He's worried about his playoff
exactly.
run. So
I agree. Ben Johnson or Dan Campbell went for 3 times. What are we talking about? Was it Dan's call to go for it twice in Dallas, or was that the
3
yeah,
times. 3
see,
times.
that's the thing. That is the problem, and I don't know what it's like in Detroit, but the problem in Philly, Jason, is that too much meddling from our owner and our GM on the day-to-day operations with the Eagles. I don't know if the GM of the Lions has his hand, but Howie Roseman, not Nick Sirianni, picks his guys at dress on game day. And that's too much. Jeffrey Lurie tells the coaches, no, I want more passing. I want more scoring. I want this. I want that. And sometimes the coaching staff has to, you know, adjust to what the bosses want to do, even though it's not what he wants to do.
Does that bother you as a fan?
Oh, yeah, it does bother me as a fan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But also, and I brought this up at the beginning of the show, and nobody really jumped on this topic, and I'm curious why. Everyone says that no one would want to coach in Philly knowing the owner and GM meddle so much. But then this morning I came up with the idea. I think that's a bogus statement because the Eagles are always given all the coaches are always given the tools to succeed. Howie spends the money. Howie will make the big bold trade. Howie will do whatever it takes to put a winning product on the field. But you just sometimes got to deal with some of the quick trigger finger, so to say. You fail, you're out of here in 2 years. You're not getting 5-10 years to maybe make one playoff run. So I think it's bogus. I think the Eagles would still be an attractive place for somebody, even though the owner and GM meddle a little too much.
Well, and you have far worse situations. I mean, look at Carolina. That's one of the spots that Ben Johnson's rumored to, they really want Ben Johnson. That owner
Right.
is horrible. What's his name? Tepper, I think his name is, or something.
Yeah.
You fired 3 head coaches 3 years in a row, 1 year into it. Like, why would you want to go there if you're a coach?
Yeah, and at least there they don't even have a first round pick this year. They got a young
Right.
quarterback that showed no
Yeah.
promise. At least in Philly, you've got Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where do you think Ben Johnson ends up? What are the rumors going around Detroit? Where does it seem like he's going to go?
Carolina wants him the most. I know that.
Yeah.
I saw Carolina and Washington, I think, were the favorites. I think Seattle's I said this the other day on Fairway, but I think Seattle's an interesting point. I mean, you have a team that they're not loaded by any means, but they're not bad. Like they were right there to make a playoff game. They need a couple pieces. I think they needed, I don't know. I'm not set on Geno Smith being a star quarterback or anything, but I don't know. I think
But you
Seattle's
got
an
somebody there
interesting
that
team.
you could draft a quarterback and groom behind Geno for the next year or two if you wanted to. I'm most intrigued out of all the head coaching spots, out of the fact that it looks like it could happen today that Bill Belichick will go to the Falcons of all
I
teams.
know.
It just seems weird to me that Bill Belichick would go to a team that doesn't have a quarterback in place yet. Considering his failure in New England was replacing Tom Brady and being stuck with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi and all those other guys.
Right.
Like, why would he go to Atlanta with? I know they've got weapons in Atlanta, but their quarterback situation is just atrocious. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
I was reading the other day, maybe yesterday, about how they were saying Atlanta has a really good roster. They just don't have a quarterback. Like, do they really have that good of a roster? I mean, I know they have some pieces, but like, am I missing something? I don't feel like they're that
Yeah,
good.
I mean, they got Kyle Pitts, who hasn't done anything, but
Right.
that might be more on
Hmm.
Arthur Smith. They got Bijan Robinson, but
Bijan,
he
yeah.
didn't. He wasn't. They used Tyler Algier more than Bijan Robinson this year. And they got Drake London, who should be a guy that's catching 80 passes a year, but it's not. Um, Desmond Ritter is the future.
Oh,
I don't know about that. I don't know if Desmond Ritter's anything. I
no.
don't even know if he's a starting quarterback in the NFL on a
I
good
think
team.
Heineke's better than Ritter, to be honest with you.
That's well, we've seen a lot of Heineke here in Philly when he was with Washington.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody keeps talking about that if the Eagles fired their offense coordinator or lost their offense coordinator, go get Arthur Smith, who was the head coach there in Atlanta. But I don't know how you give Arthur Smith an offense or turn over an offense on any team to
True.
him this offseason when you just watched him unable to get 3-star offensive weapons involved on a regular basis.
Right. You picked a guy 6th overall, Bijan, and
Yeah.
you don't use him. You use him 10 touches a game and not in the red zone
Dude,
at all.
I was so frustrated with Bijan Robinson's usage. I'm in a keeper fantasy football league, a deep, deep league, 14-team league.
Oof.
I traded away Bijan Robinson. And he could have been one of my keepers. I traded him away. I think I got a first or second round pick. Like, I want him off my team. I don't even want to risk having him on my franchise for the next coming years. Like, I get him out of here, and yeah, I obviously didn't make the playoffs with that, but it happens, whatever. So anyway, so you can't stoop low as a team when you hire the coach who beat you in the Super Bowl. I guess
Oh,
that's awful.
ouch.
Belichick will coach up Ritter like he did Mac Jones, guys.
Yeah.
We coached up Mac Jones, all right. Mac Jones is probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion.
Except
So let's
Desmond Ritter.
get into this weekend's games. Let's start. I was going to go in order, but I want to start with obviously your Detroit Lions, because I think the Detroit game, I think the Sunday games overall are the more intriguing games. Lions versus Buccaneers, Bills versus Chiefs. They're the games that I think that are a little bit more, could go either way. I know Tampa's not a great team, but you told me when I was talking with you that the Bucs are trash. You're like, hold on a second. They're not as bad as we think they are. They're a well-coached team. You haven't. I mean, how old were you the last time you experienced this part of the playoffs, Jason?
10, 8,
And
something like that.
the last time you saw a division round game, you were 10. You don't even probably remember that. Tampa Bay has been there, done that. I know it's not Tom Brady anymore, and I know things have changed in Tampa, but there are still some core pieces from their last Super Bowl run. Tampa's got the experience factor there. And Baker, he's a game manager. He does what he's got to do. How do you see the Detroit game? What would your prediction? Oh, hold on. Pause. Mitchie Pooh's got a question for you.
No. God, no.
He absolutely loves the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah. I'm a Spartan, unfortunately.
He's a Spartan through and through.
Yeah.
Took his son to the Michigan State Spartans game last night. Yeah, no. Definitely not a Michigan Wolverine fan.
No.
Will John Harbaugh leave Michigan, though?
Jim Harbaugh.
Will he end up one of these teams?
John
Harbaugh. John Harbaugh. Same
Yeah.
difference.
He's going to San Diego. I mean, LA Chargers.
LA? Yeah. Okay. All right. Hiring Belichick is like when the Sixers signed Horford. Oh my God, that was so bad. Jason, do you think your team will run bubble screens to fight the puck blitzing? So yes.
My team runs a lot of bubble screens, so yes.
Do they run them successfully though? Because I'm pretty sure we've never run. There was a tweet that went out there this past week that the Eagles ran 636 bubble screens this year and gained a total of negative 64 yards. And the reason why the person that posted it, tweeted it, or it blew up was because it's not accurate, but it's not like some people actually believe that could be accurate. That's how bad we were at running it. And we always run it on 3rd and 20, 4th and 30. We run the wide receiver bubble screen. So
who was the wide receiver that the Eagles always had? Was it Greg Lewis? No, who was it? The one that you said.
Greg Lewis, Mr. 40 catches for 92-yard Greg Lewis.
Yeah.
No, Greg Ward. Sorry, Greg Ward. Greg Lewis was a wide receiver coach. Sorry. back in the day.
We
Greg Ward,
run a
yeah,
lot.
Mr.
To answer the question, we run a lot of bubble screens, but Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. So
Well, that's the
I
thing.
love.
We've got DeAndre Swift, and all off season we were told DeAndre Swift bubble screens in the slot, different things. Caught like 20 passes this year. Like they utilized him so minimally this year. So, it is what it is. So, what do the Lions got to do to beat the Buccaneers and get to next week's championship game
I think
outside
it's
of
all
running
about.
more bubble screens?
I think it's all about pressuring Baker.
Okay.
The crowd's going to be insane. If they can get a lot of pressure on Baker, I think that they win easily. To be honest with you, I just don't think a lot falls on the offense too. I guess I'm not confident in Baker putting up a lot of points, especially on the road. Like against the defense isn't great, but they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So I think that's the name of the game. I can't see Baker winning a game that gets into the 30s. So I think keeping the game lower and keeping it in the 20s, I think that's the key for the Lions.
There's actually a lot of Eagles fans that'll have eyes on the Lions game because you've got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on your roster. Brian Branch, a guy that a lot of Eagles wanted to be drafted instead of Nolan Smith and stuff like that. So there will be, and then obviously the Slays are from there and whatnot. There will be a lot of eyes on that game. Laporta blocks for his guys, though. Same with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Why it's successful. Yeah, our guys don't block for anybody. Our guys run into each other, Marshawn, instead of blocking for guys. In my opinion, the Lions-Bucks game comes down to, yes, getting pressure on Baker, but also wrapping up. I don't know what the Lions numbers were sack related, but the Eagles obviously almost broke the record last year with 70 sacks on a season. This year they struggled massively, in the sack department. And I got made fun of nonstop by the commenters on this show because I called it they led the league in the almost sack category this year. And it happened again against the Bucks. They got after Baker, but they couldn't wrap up, and Baker was able to step up, make plays when they were necessary. And the other aspect of what we struggled is everyone calls us the elite offensive line in Philly, but they can't pass protect. And the Bucks blitz like crazy. Right. So I think the key is, and I don't know the answer whether they could do this or not, can the Lions wrap up when they get to Baker? And two, can they protect Jared Goff? Todd Bowles was the leading blitzer the Buccaneers were the leading blitzing team in the NFL this year. They blitzed more than anybody else. Can they protect Goff, and can they actually finish and get home on Baker? The answer to those two questions is whether the Lions win or not.
The similarities too. The Lions are very similar to the Eagles, and in both of those are their strengths. Also, the Lions were second in the league in almost sacks this year. They had it seems like there's like 10 a game that you're like, oh my god, how did they not sack that guy right there? Like it's insane. But then the Lions' offensive line is also their strength too. So it'll be interesting to see. That's the key, 100%. Can Goff get the ball out quick? Can we avoid sacks, and can we pressure Baker?
Me and Jason talk about this. Brett, are you a Lions fan? I thought you were an Eagles fan. Gotta love we. He's saying we like he's part of Lions Nation. And outside of the Red Wings, they haven't had much success since the late '80s. We actually just had this. I don't know if it was on the air or off the air from Fairway to Heaven. Jason and I co-host a golf podcast on Tuesday nights. We were literally just talking about, all the Red Wings success makes up for all the lack of success for all the other teams right now in the
Still, we've been okay with the Pistons. We've been okay with the Pistons. 3 championships in my lifetime. They went to like 9 conference finals in the early 2000s. So not terrible.
So he's saying we, as in Philadelphia, went 83 to 08. That is true. We did, and that's what I said. That I made sure he knew, Brett, that we are the losingest city in the history of sports, and that's not a bold hot take. That is legitly the answer right there. The defense came through on the first 3 drives of the third quarter and had sacks. Yes, absolutely. We got rolling in the second half against the Buccaneers, and then it all collapsed because the offense failed to score against the Buccaneers defense. I actually think the only way the Lions win is if they put up 30 or more points against the Bucs. If it is a close game, if it's 24-21, 27-24, something like that, I think the Buccaneers win that game.
Yeah, because the Lions can't stop anybody. That's not a secret. We blitz a lot too because we have to.
10,000 losses. I think they've actually passed the 11,000 loss plateau now, Brett. Just so you know, and Brett, I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you're a Preston and Steve fan, but back when they hit the 10,000 losses, it was what, 2009, 2010. The Preston and Steve show, if you know them guys, dropped 10,000 marbles down the Art Museum steps as a celebration of 10,000 thing. If you haven't seen that video, you should go look at the video. It's hilarious watching 10,000 marbles just roll down the rocky steps
Oh,
there.
God.
Yeah. So final prediction. Let me see here. Let me pull up the line real quick. We got Detroit 6.5 point favorites against the Buccaneers, obviously in a dome, which all stadiums should be in a dome. Again, Buffalo's calling for snow this weekend. They're calling for the fans to shovel. How Buffalo is building a new stadium and not putting a roof on it, I have no idea. At least Detroit's got a dome, so the weather won't play a factor. Your prediction: Lions versus Buccaneers.
Did you see, first off, did you see the other day when the reporter asked Todd Bowles about how he was going to deal with the weather in Detroit?
No.
The press
Oh,
conference?
yeah, I did. I did see that.
We were like, well, it's a
Talk
dome.
about a reporter not doing their research, or
Talk about you're fired. Yeah.
yeah, if you're fired, you have no. Although no publicity is bad pub. There's no such thing as bad publicity. That reporter probably
Right.
got a lot of clicks on a lot of things
Yeah.
because of that situation.
My prediction: Lions 31, Bucks 27.
31,
6.5 is
27.
too big of a spread, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was going to go more. I was going to go similar to that, so I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to go. Oh, man, I'm going to say the Lions win 27-17. I think they keep the Bucks down under 20. Um, I don't. I mean, this is the same Buccaneers offense that was only able to put up 9 points against the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
Adam's saying 30-24 Lions. Yeah, I can see that too. I almost just said that.
About the same.
Todd, how will you deal with the air conditioning? Yeah,
How will you do
basically.
with it? 72
I'm sure
degrees.
Sutton will make the tackle if given the chance against the Bucks.
Sutton
Nobody.
might be the worst starting corner in the NFL. No joke.
I don't know. James Bradbury might actually
He's
be the worst.
so bad.
We might have a battle there. James Bradbury gave up. I think he was responsible for well over 100 yards of the Bucks passing game on Monday night. My brother-in-law was an intern on the show. I love piano. Okay, gotcha. I thought he was an intern on my show. I was like, don't have an intern. I could use an intern. Does he need another internship job? He can work for me for free right here on the show.
30
I
years
would.
later.
I was just talking to Jason that I need an intern or a secretary of some kind. All right, so we both got the Lions. We all got the Lions winning, which is unfortunate because then they'll have the inevitable task of going to San Francisco to play the 49ers, who I think are, based off the final 8 teams remaining, the clear-cut best team left in football. Is there any chance the Packers have against the Niners? The Niners are 9.5 point favorite. The weather's going to be spotless in San Francisco this weekend. Do the Niners or do the Packers have even a remote chance against the Niners?
I think they do. I know that's crazy, but I think they do. I think that's too big of a spread too.
9.5 there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I only say that. I wouldn't have said that 5 weeks ago, but I think the way that they're playing right now, I think they have a chance. They're not going to win, but I think they have a chance. I think 9.5 is too big of a spread. So I think the 49ers win, but I don't think it's a blowout by any means.
Do you buy into the theory? And Phillies fans have had this theory with different sports teams and whatnot throughout the we've seen it with other cities that the Packers won their Super Bowl last week by getting a win, by beating the vaunted unstoppable Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's house. That hype kind of gives them a letdown, and because that's where I was thinking. I was thinking that the Packers are just so over the top hyped about last week's game that they kind of have the letdown and they kind of get smoked this week.
I think that's a good point. Plus, it's a completely different team. You see the
Wow.
Cowboys there. Wow.
Adams predicted. That means you get the NFC Championship game in Detroit
Oh
next
my
week.
God. This
Could
city
you
would go.
imagine?
This
Could
city
you
would go
imagine
nuts.
Detroit versus Green Bay for the championship? Division rivals for the championship? That would be a hell
God,
of
a
a
Super Bowl and then hosting the I don't not that we would win, but and then hosting the draft next spring. Oh my God. What's happening?
I think hosting the draft. The Phillies hosted the draft before, and I had no intentions of going to it.
Listen,
ever.
we don't have nice things in Detroit, okay? We'll take what we can get.
Yeah. We're complaining about the 2 to 3 inches of snow we're getting today.
Right.
You probably get 2 to 3 inches every other day up there.
Pretty much.
So, pretty much. I trust Brock as much as I trust Dak. San Francisco skill players are just better.
And their defense.
I agree with that, Brett.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you buy Brock Purdy as a quarterback, as a franchise quarterback in the NFL? Because he's going to be due for a big payday this offseason. And it's a question of whether San Francisco will make that decision to pay a quarterback, but also where does his value really fall? Because it's kind of come out of nowhere.
I felt like I did probably like the first 7 or 8 games this year. I'm not sure I do now. It's like anytime they have a big game, he kind of never shows up. So I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Um, I think that they have a tough decision to make there. I hope they don't make a rash decision like the some people are saying the Eagles made a mistake on jumping the gun and giving, Jalen Hurts a contract too soon, too big. Um, I would love for them to fail, but I don't know. I think he did enough this year to prove that they've got to make at a minimum a 3-year, fairly big money commitment to him. At a minimum of 3 years, they got to give him that commitment. Maybe you give him a contract that has some form of an out clause after 3 years or something like that. But I think it would be shocking if they moved on from him because they can't come to a contract decision.
You know what's funny? We're kind of in a similar situation that Goff has one more year left on his deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, is Goff a star quarterback? No. But you know how hard it is to find a quarterback in the NFL? I mean, there's so many teams that would kill for Brock Purdy or Jared Goff on their team. And it's
Or
like,
Jalen Hurts.
you're going to have to pay Goff probably like, what, 40, 45 million, I would imagine. But
Daniel Jones got 40 million a year, so Goff's going to get more than that.
Right,
Everybody's going to get more than Daniel Jones' money.
But it's like one of those things too that's like, contracts always seem crazy in the NFL, and then 3 years later you're like, oh, 40 million for Goff, that's not bad.
Yeah, exactly. You do have one good thing in Detroit.
We do.
There you go. That's at Marshawn. We've disagreed a lot lately, but you know what? We can agree on this one here. Detroit does have Eminem. So that's does he live in the Detroit area?
He does, yeah.
Oh, he does?
Yep.
He stays in Detroit?
Not in Detroit. It's suburb of Detroit, but it's like
Well, yeah, but he does live in that
Yeah.
region. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Guy with all his money and he's not
His
moving to
daughter.
some tropical island or something like that.
You know Haley, the daughter that he always used to mention? She went to Michigan State.
Oh,
She's
well, that just makes Michigan State so much better,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
If Jalen got 250 after a Super Bowl, Brock should get at least the same if they make it to the Super Bowl. And I agree with that, Marshawn. I think that's a fair statement, a fair opinion there. I got the 49ers smoking the Packers because of what I said, that was the Packers Super Bowl. I'm going 37-14. The Niners blow out the Packers this weekend.
Wow. I'm going to go 34-24.
49ers?
49ers, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that covers the spread. And I think it's a solid prediction. All right, so there's two other games, the two AFC games. So we've got the 49ers playing the Lions, both of us. Adam's got the Lions playing the Packers, but yeah, that's bold, man. I'm still stunned. Like I don't even know how to continue on with the show, knowing that Adam thinks the Packers are in the championship game. Michigan Wolverines are the national champions. Go Blue. Mitchie Poo is just trying to piss just because I didn't invite Mitchie Poo on the show, he's going to piss off Jason, who I invited on the show.
Did you hear the rumor that the Raiders are saying that they're interested in JJ McCarthy so they can get Jim Harbaugh to be their coach?
I did not hear that.
No. Yeah.
No.
Came out yesterday.
I also heard what's his name? The Bears are interested in Cliff Kingsbury because they want to draft Caleb Williams and trade over Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Like that just makes no sense to me whatsoever. You as a Lions fan want to see the Bears fall to pieces, but that just has falling to pieces written all over it, doesn't it?
Why do people like Caleb Williams so much? That's my question. I know he's talented, but like, dude's a head case.
He is. And there was somebody tweeted something out about him the other day, and I shared it out and made a comment that I would never draft him 1 overall for this. Supposedly it was a parody account. It was a joke, and he hadn't actually said that. But I'm like, I believe the parody account's comments because Caleb Williams has already made so many comments that make me think that he doesn't have the mental makeup to be a franchise quarterback. He might have the arm talent, but there's a lot of this involved in being a franchise quarterback.
And there's a lot of leadership. And there's all the comments about his teammates couldn't stand him. That makes me worried a little bit.
Have you tried Mom's
I
Spaghetti?
have not. You know what's funny is I kind of forgot about it for a little while. It got all hyped up, but I have not tried it.
What is that? Is that like Eminem's restaurant or something?
Yeah, Mom's Spaghetti. She's nervous, or he's nervous. Remember
Yeah, I remember the line. I didn't know we had a restaurant. Marshawn's got the Packers winning as well. That's shocking. So many people picking the Packers over the Niners. That's shocking to me. My brother will be very happy, and I will get it rubbed in nonstop.
He's a
when
Niners
they are
guy?
playing in the Super Bowl again.
He's a Niners fan?
Good morning, Eric. What's up, my man? Welcome to the party here. It's a party this morning.
It is
Harbaugh season. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. See, Mitchie Poo is really jealous that I invited someone other than him on a morning show. Caleb wants to be the owner of whoever drafts him. Yeah, that came out.
He did
early in
say
the
that.
season, didn't it?
Yeah.
That he wants an ownership stake, doesn't he?
Yeah.
The dude hasn't played one snap in the NFL,
No.
and he wants an ownership stake in his
Right.
contract.
You say that if you're Tom Brady. You don't say that if you're
You don't say that when you're rookie Tom Brady.
right.
You
No,
say that
no.
when you're
You
Tom
say that if
Brady after
you're
6 Super Bowls.
6, 7 Super Bowl Tom Brady, yeah.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. All right, so the AFC games, I like the AFC games a whole hell of a lot more.
Me too.
Saturday, Ravens versus Texans. I think this is the toughest game to predict. I think the Ravens are right there with the Niners as the best team in the NFL. But damn, if you didn't watch CJ Stroud in Wild Card Weekend, if that was the first time you watched him, you would not be able to tell me he was a rookie. If that was the first time you watched him play,
No, I
like that
completely
guy's just got balls of steel. That guy's got a cannon of an arm. They've got a great head coach, young head coach there. Whether they win or lose the Texans, they're in a great shape as a franchise. I think the Texans can push the Ravens this weekend. What do you think?
Can Stroud do it on the road? I think that's the biggest question. On the
Yeah.
road in the playoffs is a lot different.
It's gonna be
But
cold.
I mean,
I don't know about Baltimore. That's only an hour south of me, but I know where I'm at. Saturday and Sunday. It's gonna be like 20 degrees here in Philly.
like the Browns had a good defense this year, and
Yeah.
he just torched them last week.
Yeah.
So they took their foot off the gas in the second round too. I don't know. I think Baltimore wins. I think it's close though, for sure.
Okay. I hope the Packers beat it. I hope and believe are two totally different things, Eric. But those guys are hungry and on a mission. Hard to catch the 49ers slipping. Yeah,
You know what's
I
funny though?
can't believe the 49ers would lose their first playoff game. If they lose next week to the Lions, that would be different. But this week, I just can't see it.
You know what's funny about the
Ravens beat
Packers?
the snot out of the Texans. CJ throws a pick. That Ravens defense is legit, not like the Cowboys.
Agreed.
I just want to make this statement about the Texans because I probably won't talk about the Texans again unless they win this weekend this year. I knew the Cleveland Browns were making a huge mistake trading all that to Houston to get Deshaun Watson. It was clear as day. But if there's if you ever had a doubt whether Houston won or lost that trade, just looking at where the Texans organization is today compared to the Cleveland, I know Cleveland's still a good team, but man, Houston has made out like wet bandits. It's just crazy. How good the trajectory and the trending of that franchise is.
How about Carolina too? Trading to get
Ugh.
they
But
traded
yeah, you see what the Houston did and the complete opposite in Carolina. Carolina's still in complete dump. Do you think Bryce Young really is the bust that people are saying he is now?
I think he
Or do you
is.
think maybe another quarterback or coach can fix that quarterback situation?
No, I don't think he's going to be good, to be honest with you. And I think,
Like if
I mean,
Ben Johnson goes there, can Ben Johnson fix Bryce Young?
I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, you traded up. You traded what, 2 first-round picks and
Yep.
CJ Stroud basically for Bryce Young. Ouch.
Yeah. Niners 33-20 over Green Bay. Tampa 32-24. Oh, Tampa beating Detroit. Baltimore 30-24 over Houston. KC 27-24 over Buffalo. Haven't gotten to that. I like that Niners score. Can't see the Bucks thing happening. Kind of like the Baltimore score. Can Baltimore score 30 against the Texans?
I think
That's
they
the
can.
question. They can?
Yeah, I think they can. You know what's funny about the Packers? I was going to say this point a few minutes ago. We lost to them on Thanksgiving, and it seemed like the world was ending, right? Like, how do you lose to the Packers on Thanksgiving? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, 5 weeks later, it doesn't seem so bad.
No. I mean, that's the way it was with the Eagles, too. Like, we had all these tough games. We beat a bunch of teams. Those teams kind of fell down. And then the teams that beat us ended up being better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's kind of
Weird.
weird when you
Yeah.
look back on a season as a whole. I've got the Ravens winning. It's a 9.5-point spread. This is the only game that I think all the other games cover. I don't think the Ravens cover the 9.5. I look at like a 27-21, 27-20, something like that. CJ Stroud will flash at times, but I don't think he's got enough experience to beat that Raven. I don't think Lamar Jackson MVP maybe of the league, but I don't know if he'll put up 30, 40 points or anything like that. I think it'll be a close game. 9.5, I think, is a stretch.
I go a little bit the opposite way. I say Ravens 37, Texans 24.
Okay. So we're flip flopping on which yeah, I thought the Niners would cover, you didn't, and we're back and forth on that
Yeah.
one there. That's interesting. Texans, I'd be more confident if Tank Dell was playing.
Yeah, that's a bad
Yeah,
loss.
for
to me.
sure. No way Tampa beat the Lions. I agree, Eric. No way whatsoever. Deshaun signed for whatever he signed for. I don't remember the number.
It was like
Marshawn,
240 something guaranteed, wasn't
but
it?
it was 100%
Yeah.
guaranteed. Which and how many draft picks they gave up, to get him. I mean,
240 or something guaranteed, and Joe Flacco's better. That's not ideal.
Joe Flacco put up 300 yards. See, that's the only thing that I'm afraid of, that maybe the Ravens do cover, that the Texans defense did let Joe Flacco through for 300 yards.
Right.
Joe Flacco was literally nearly homeless on his couch at the start of the season. They're like, "Yo, you want to come play quarterback for us?" If you haven't seen, there's a video of him like getting on a plane to go to Cleveland to interview, like week 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He hadn't shaved, it didn't look like, in weeks. Like, he just looked like a random Joe Schmo on the plane. And
Yep.
yeah, and he was throwing 300 yards in the playoffs. It's crazy. I think this is the year Bills beat the Chiefs. Well, good segue, Eric, because that's the final game. Bills are 3-point favorites over the Chiefs. I think the Bills beat the Chiefs and play in the championship game.
Me too.
I think it's going to be it's going to be cold. The snow is going to stop by game time, but it's going to snow a lot, this weekend up in Buffalo. I think the Bills win a close, low-scoring game, something like 24-20 is what I'm saying. Just like some other teams right now, the Bills are red hot. Like, I mean, 5 weeks left in the season when they fired their offensive coordinator, something the Eagles should have done. They fired what's his name, Dorsey.
Yep.
Promoted Joe Brady to the play caller. There's something different clicking there in Buffalo. Buffalo wins, and also there's rumors floating around that just came out in the last 24 or so hours that I've seen that Andy Reid might be calling it quits at the end of the season, and maybe there's a little bit of a distraction there with that. I don't know if they're true rumors. Haven't followed them or not, but if that's the case, I think Buffalo beats Kansas City in what could be Andy Reid's last game.
I think Buffalo wins too. I think it's I'm going to say 27-24 Buffalo. I think, like you just said, Buffalo was 6-6 at one point. They're peaking at the right time. They've looked awesome lately, and I just feel like the Chiefs really haven't been impressive this year at all. Like, it's not the same Chiefs team. Like, so I just think that Buffalo is too much for them.
I look at Buffalo, but I'm kind of jealous because Buffalo and Philly had a lot of similar problems. We were just happened to be successful during our problems at first. We made a drastic change, but the wrong change. Buffalo was struggling. They needed a change. They made the right change. And like you watched both teams make changes around the same time of the season. One started trending upwards and one started trending downwards instantly. And that kind of frustrates me, and I'm kind of jealous of it. Eagles in the playoffs should have won an Emmy for Best Ensemble Cast for a Comedy Show. Yeah, thanks, Marshawn. Goff looked like he was shaving.
He did. He really did.
Oh, man. That's the thing. Jared Goff's a good quarterback, but he's still a very below average quarterback at random times. You just don't know when that below average moment's going to come. Not going to lie for the slow people. We got Ravens 28, Texans 27.
Nail biter.
Definitely not covering the spread, Adam. I like that. 32-31. Bills. Don't know if that's going to be that high scoring. Lose on a drop pass in the end zone. Hopefully it's not Rashad Rice. It's funny. Like, Rashad Rice is somebody that I traded for mid-season. He might be on my keeper list.
He's a stud.
He's got the potential, man. A rookie. He's only going to cost me a 9th-round pick to keep him this year. I kind of feel like I've got to keep Rashad Rice. Getting him with a 9th-round pick would be a pretty solid keeper pick.
I agree.
Just imagine how many 500 super chats. Yeah. If Deshaun Watson's watching, I mean, Will Smith watches. I know he's quiet, but Will Smith watches regularly. Will, if you're in the comments, just drop a comment so Jason knows I'm not lying that Will Smith watches the show on a regular basis. Joe Flacco was never the answer. Did well, but there was no way they win with him.
No.
I know he wasn't the answer, but he did better than Deshaun Watson at that point. That's all. And he was better than who was the guy that was the backup, the rookie? He was from UCLA. He had like a three-letter initial, like DRG or something like that, or
why can I not think
Dorel something. I don't even remember.
I can't remember.
He was a rookie quarterback, and he was Imagine signing a quarterback for whatever and having question marks about him. I know what you're saying, Marshawn. That's a Jalen Hurts dig, Jason. Just so you know, majorly. Rashee Rice, Rashee, whatever. You know me and my name pronunciations, Marshawn. Never good. Eagles made history for assembling first mentally challenged coaching staff. This is what I deal with, Jason, on a daily basis here. I think Kansas City wins. Mahomes is kryptonite to Allen. I think that's a fair point from Big Al there at EOP. I do. I think that's a very fair comment. Rumor has it Deshaun just sits quietly and watches.
That's
That's
funny.
another thing. It's another dig at Jalen Hurts right there. Marshawn, you just love digging at Jalen Hurts. Life is full of surprises. Tampa could be that surprise.
Oh, stop.
Oh, stop. Not just me shutting my commenters down.
Yeah.
You're shutting the commenters down too. I love it. I love it. So yesterday's show was because Marshawn's starting to make some subtle digs at Jalen Hurts. Yesterday's show was titled, "Do we have to have a conversation about Jalen Hurts?" You would die for Jalen Hurts instead of Jared Goff to be your quarterback.
Oh, God. I think everybody outside of Kansas City, maybe Houston now at this point, Buffalo. I mean, who else? Who else wouldn't want Jalen Hurts? Come on.
Yeah, not many. I thought you were making Jalen Hurts comments, but you were making massage comments. All right. I think you were still making Adam. I still think you were making comments about Jalen Hurts there. Nice having you, Jason. Go Lions. Adam. Yes, that's right, my man. Sorry, Phil. I had to do it. Yeah, look. Yeah, it's Friday. It's snowing like crazy. Well, maybe not for you, Eric, in Chicago or wherever you are these days. We had an everyone is to blame conversation. Oh, no. We had a Jalen Hurts conversation yesterday. We had a Nick Sirianni conversation the day before yesterday. We've been talking about everyone. You just didn't like my opinion on Jalen Hurts, Marshawn. That's all there is to it. But there are a lot of teams that would call Howie Roseman right now and offer the world for Jalen Hurts if he didn't have a no-trade clause. Just saying. Detroit would literally cancel the rest of their season to bring in Jalen Hurts right now. Here's the scenario, Jason. You can purposely lose on Sunday, but then guarantee yourself Jalen Hurts next year, or go in there and do your best to win and maybe be stuck with Jared Goff for the rest of the next 3 or 5 years. Which scenario are you taking?
Keeping Goff.
Oh, wow. I thought you
We don't win enough. That's not even a dig. We don't win enough playoff games to do that.
That's true. Yeah. You never know. In Detroit, you never know when this opportunity is going to come again, right? Conversely, you didn't like my opinion. I didn't like your opinion. And that's the thing. Like, I told you I didn't. You just hated my opinion. When I say everybody's opinion matters, I mean everybody's opinion matters except for Marshawn this week. Y'all laughing about my Tampa pick. You'll be saying Jonathan called it. I will. Hey, Jonathan, I admit my mistakes all the time. All the time, my man. All the time. He's so happy that you don't want Jalen Hurts instead of Goff at this point. Oh, my God. Guys, we're going to have to wrap this up here in the next minute or two. I got to go clean a couple inches of snow off my car. I got to find a way to get into the pizza shop today. Snow does not keep me away from work. Unfortunately, you all get snow days. Me, I got to work. Jason, how do you like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Is he healthy? Is he playing?
He's playing, yeah. He played last week. You know what's funny?
I know he was hurt for a while this year. I didn't know.
He tore his pec, I think, or something, right?
Yeah.
So you know what's funny about that is I was going to say that earlier in the show. We kind of started talking about something else. I don't like him.
No.
I think he talks so much shit for a guy that isn't that great. Like he's always constantly saying something. Did you see what he said about Baker yesterday?
No.
He said they got so many weapons, yada yada yada. Too bad they don't have a quarterback. It's like, do we have to say that?
He is one of the most immature people in the NFL. He has some talent. The problem is his swag off the field doesn't measure up to the swag he brings on the field. Like he's good, but he talks a great game, but only plays a good game. You know what I mean?
He talks like he's a great player. He's a good player. He's not great. He's good.
CJ had a pick when he came back. He made the right choice. Your opinion matters, kind of, except for when I disagree strongly with it, Marco. No, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's a guy that would be welcome back in Philly next year because he only signed a 1-year deal in Detroit. He's just a head case. I don't know. We suffered without him though this year. You guys got him and you guys got Brian Branch, and we could have used either one of them. So CJ at least talks and shows emotion. Yes,
he does.
Our team is void of emotion altogether. That's one thing Marshawn and I don't disagree on. This team is very void of a lot right now. Jason, thank you very much for coming on this morning. Greatly appreciate your time. I can't wait. I got you awake and up in the morning to come on the morning show.
The morning show is fun, man.
Doing 2 shows in 1 week with you. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
I need to take more days off and do the morning show.
You got to take more days off and come on the morning show more often. Hey, maybe Super Bowl week. Maybe I'll have you on Super Bowl week. We can do a Super Bowl preview.
Yeah.
Where's Ben Johnson end up? Carolina. You think Detroit wins? Anything
Seattle.
else you got to say about the
Ben
end of this
Johnson goes
NFL
to
season?
Seattle. I'm sticking with it.
Yep, gotcha.
Mm.
Bradbury hasn't finished downloading emotional responses yet. James Bradbury's awful, guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Please be safe if you're going out and about. Because that's right. I like it. I told you before, I love that sweatshirt, man. You guys changed your one pride
Yeah, I
to
don't like
your
that.
new slogan. Can we somehow find out how that happened so we can change Fly Eagles Fly? Because they don't deserve the Fly Eagles Fly hashtag right now. CJ popping off at the mouth at Baker, definitely wrong. Yeah. That
Stupid.
might be a reason why Baker wins this weekend, maybe. Philly out here working. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Gotta work. Gotta work. Go turds.
Take one day
Great
off.
show.
One day off.
One
Jeez.
day off. Exactly. Guys, everybody have a great weekend. Be safe if you got to go out. If you don't have to go out, call for deliveries. If you're calling for deliveries, please take care of your delivery drivers if they're driving in the snow. I know my guys would appreciate if they're going to risk their lives to deliver you pizza. Please take care of them. We'll be back Monday. Who knows what we're talking about? We'll recap the weekend games next week and the week after. Lining up guests. We got Bill Matz talking Flyers. We got Scotty talking Sixers. We got Renee Washington talking it all coming on the show. Everybody have a great weekend. Go Birds. And you know what? To end the show, go Lions.
Let's go, baby.